What's going on? My name is Steph and welcome back to my channel, Mountain High Life. For today, I'm going to be sharing my own personal unique experience from everything that I kind of discovered upon training for my first 100-mile race that I had perhaps wish I had known, or things that I picked up on that I just completely did not expect to kind of run into from training to the race itself. Just some little nuggets of information that might be valuable to you for your first 100-mile race. So that to be said, I do want to provide a little disclaimer that this is not a generalization for everybody's first 100-mile experience. This is unique to me, some things I observed, and just some thoughts that I've shared with friends that, I don't know, it's kind of been a general theme that I've noticed. But again, this might not be the case for everybody, but this has been something that I've observed and just some things that I've kind of considered for other people who might be interested in training for their first 100-mile race or completing their first 100-mile race. I'm going to break this video down into a few parts. We're going to start with picking your first race, the training right before your race, the race itself, and after the race/recovery. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So picking your first race. For me, I wanted a rugged, authentic mountain experience that was going to provide a lot of miles in the high alpine, a lot of vertical gain, and a lot of rugged terrain and adventure. And that is what I got when I ran the High Lonesome 100 this past summer. It's a 100-mile race, average elevation of over 10,000 feet and over 23,000 feet of climbing. And that is exactly what I wanted. Like I said, a mountain adventure. However, if you're just looking to complete a 100-mile race, vertical gain or high altitude might not be anything you're interested in. So I definitely recommend taking time to explore what you want out of your first 100-mile race. Do the research, see what you want out of a course. Is it a specific course that's calling your name like the High Lonesome did for me? Or is it just to complete a 100-mile effort? What is your objective with this race? Find that and find a race that really resonates with that goal. And I think that's really important because it's going to help make your training fun versus if it's not authentic to what you're looking for, there might just be a little bit of friction between what you're training for versus what you're actually seeking. Whatever race you do choose, you will need to kind of train somewhat specifically for that race. For example, with the High Lonesome 100, I had to do a bit of altitude training, getting my GI and nutrition strategies down for when I was going to be performing and running, hiking, walking, moving at high altitude, and really get used to kind of what I needed in the high altitude. And additionally, I also think it's really important to know what qualifications are necessary for your race. For example, a lot of 100-milers require that you complete a 50-mile race or a 100K, whether or not it's a specific race from a list like Hard Rock and there's a lottery involved. It's just really important to take note of that and make sure that you set yourself up for success for entry, so that way when the lottery does open up or whatever the case may be, sign up is time. If you don't have that qualifying race, you'll have to put it off for another year. But that's okay. These things do take a little bit of time, but it's just important to kind of know what you want to do and to be able to plan for it earlier rather than later. Next, we're going to get into training. I am going to be referencing my laptop, so if you see me look down, to stay on track because I have a tendency to yap. Training. I really think that if you're ready to commit to a 100-mile race, you have an understanding that there is going to be a huge commitment to the training. And I think it is so exciting and so fun to really dedicate and commit yourself to a training plan and to really dedicate to a goal and to just kind of lay the foundation and groundwork and build and watch yourself hit these new high mileage, high volume weeks and witness that, wow, if I really commit to something, I can really achieve anything, and anything is within my reach. Anything is possible with consistency. And I think that is so beautiful, but there is a lot of sacrifice with training for a 100-mile race. So first of all, it's going to take time. I would say I started to lay the groundwork in January. My race was in March. I'm sorry, my race was not in March. My race was in July. So in January, that's kind of when I basically planned from July backwards with my training. Like, where do I want to be right before my taper, and work my training backwards so I could build as efficiently as possible versus building up to. I kind of worked backwards with the way I decided to structure my training. I think this also raises a good question as to whether or not is a coach necessary, and I think that's a very subjective question. I personally, with 14 years of running experience under my belt, I did run college cross country and track, so I am very familiar with running workouts. I also coached myself to the completion of my first 100K, the Never Summer 100K, which is another really rugged, high alpine mountain, rugged mountain race. And I felt very confident that I had the level of dedication and commitment to commit to whatever training plan that I laid out, that I didn't feel it was necessary for a coach. But I will talk a little bit more about this here in the next section. However, if you do not feel very confident in being able to lay out a training plan for yourself, or you're newer to ultras, you just kind of started to dip your toes into 50Ks and maybe your first 50-miler, and a 100-mile race, it just is like, where do I even start? Perhaps consulting a coach would be really beneficial for you. I think it's all very subjective. Do what's best for you. That's just the stance and approach that I took. The training, regardless of whether or not you utilize a coach, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to, one, build the groundwork on a more macro level, build your base to a point where you can actually start building the volume upon the base and groundwork that you've laid. That's going to take time, but it's also going to take time every week to do your runs, whether it's every day with, lifting and just getting your maintenance miles in, to on the weekends, getting to a point where you're perhaps doing back-to-back long runs. For example, I would do like a 30-mile run on Saturday, follow that up on Sunday with a 15 to 18-mile run, some weekends even like a 20-mile run. That takes a lot of time. And if you are looking to kind of make your training race specific, so if you are doing a high altitude race, or if you're doing a trail race, which most 100-milers are, ideally you want to spend a lot of time on terrain that mimics the course. So that way when you show up on race day, it's not unfamiliar territory. So for me, I was traveling to the mountains quite a bit to get used to running at a higher altitude, to get used to some of the trails of the course, and spending a lot of time in my vehicle just driving to these places, on top of spending a lot of time on trail and on my feet. So there is quite a bit of sacrifice in regards to time dedicated to your training. It's going to take a lot of energy, and like I mentioned, building that slow progression, so laying the groundwork and then building on top of kind of the base that you've set for yourself. You will get used to these big effort weeks, but you will require down weeks and time to recover, and you will probably feel a level of fatigue or a level of hunger that you have never experienced before. I know for me, it's like appalling to be a female and eating more than my fiance. I've talked to a lot of my girlfriends who also ended up eating more than their husbands during this time, and it can just be like, oh my God. It's just wild how hungry you can feel at times during the peak of your training, or even just like getting into training. Like, you expect to be hungry. That to be said, you might even put on a few extra pounds. Your body's going to be retaining extra water. Your body is going to be consuming more food. And although you're going to be burning more calories, you're probably going to gain some muscle mass. So, for me, I did put on a few pounds, especially during the peak of my training. It's normal. It's okay. It's perfectly fine, but it's okay. Like, it's kind of normal. And if I'm being honest with you, if you're looking to lose weight while you're getting into your peak training, that is not the time to be cutting calories or being in any sort of caloric deficit. So let's just let's just note that. There's going to be a lot of energy expenditure with your training, and it's going to require a lot of dedication to training because you might be motivated at first, but then it's like if you have some bad weather or the trail conditions aren't good, or you're just exhausted and you don't feel like training, you feel like you've done enough for the week, that's when that dedication to that finish line is really got to kick in and help get you out the door and get those maintenance miles done. And again, I think consulting a coach if you are newer to the ultra scene and you're not sure where to start would be beneficial, but everybody's training and mileage is going to be different. So you got to do what works best for you. Peak training, mileage, volume, vertical gain, it's all unique to you and what is good and beneficial for your body without burning you out. There's got to be a huge dedication to training, and not only in the sense of like mileage and vertical gain, you've got to be really dedicated to figuring out a nutrition strategy that works with you, because inevitably this race, 100 miles, is so long that if you screw up your nutrition along the way, it could be detrimental enough to call your race short. So you've got to focus on your nutrition, and also you really have to focus on your race and ultra mindset, because inevitably your race will be uncomfortable and you have to have the mindset and mental resources to power through. So I know I've talked about it here on the channel quite a bit in my Road to 100 Mile kind of playlist. I'll link it in the description down below or somewhere on the screen. But you have to focus on mentally being able to just be present and understand that you're in a bit of discomfort. And I think your long runs are a great time to practice that. But training for a 100-mile race is not just getting the miles in or the vertical gain. You have to mentally train, practice your nutrition, and just really get used to being on your feet for that amount of time. With all of that to be said, there is sacrifice. Like, I had to say no to quite a few social outings. I had to say no to spending extra time with my fiance some weekends. I had to really prioritize what I thought was best for my training, and understanding that that was a temporary kind of situation. It's not something that I still practice having completed my race now, but there's a lot of dedication and sacrifice to your training that is just kind of part of it. Now, I think the other big component to the training aspect is going to be a reoccurring theme, but the monetary and financial aspect of your training, it's expensive. The training component, I mean, if you do pursue coaching, that's its own expenditure in and of itself. Okay, we got the dog in here now, but coaching is its own financial expenditure in and of itself. But if you practice with sports nutrition, oftentimes it can get expensive. Gels range anywhere from $1.50 to $5 a piece. Even like the chews and sport drink mixes. As you start to ramp up your training, I do think it's really important. Also, shoes. When you're running big volume weeks, it's crazy how quickly you'll go through your shoes. And I mean, shoes nowadays are so freaking expensive. So it is something that is to note that it gets expensive. Additionally, like I mentioned with travel, if you do decide to stay somewhere, lodging and logistics with gas and car maintenance, that all adds up. So it can get expensive not super quickly, but it can get expensive. Even just the training component. The training is a lot, but I really, really want to emphasize that I enjoyed the training aspect of getting to the finish line of High Lonesome so much, and it made that finish line so gratifying and rewarding for me. And even just witnessing some of my highest volume weeks that I never thought was achievable for myself, that was so confidence boosting and inspiring. And I think that's one of the most incredible feelings, to be an inspiration to yourself, to prove to yourself that you are capable of anything that you commit with your full heart and soul to. And I think that's really rewarding and worth mentioning. So although there's a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of financial sacrifice, time involved in training, it's so worth it. So you've completed your month of training, you've laid the groundwork, you've had your peak week of training, highest volume week of your life to this point yet. You're feeling pretty good, and now it's time to taper. Tapering. I personally struggled a lot with my taper because it kind of began a little bit sooner than I had originally planned. When I planned my training, I had kind of planned to start my taper right after 4th of July or right around the 4th of July, and I ended up starting it early, and I mentally really struggled and started questioning all of my training and feeling like I should have gotten one more big weekend in, and just really getting hung up on the fact that I should have had one more big weekend, which it all worked out in the end. However, this is when I think a coach would be probably the most beneficial, to just reassure you that what you're doing is right. Having somebody to consult with that's a professional that trains people and coaches them through their entire training program. They know them, they know what they're capable of and what they've done, and evaluating that and just reassuring them. And for me, I really struggled with that, not having a coach. So that would be one benefit to having a coach. But tapering, it can be just tough. You really do run into these taper tantrums, whether it's just you get really grouchy because you're not doing quite as much, or you just get this, for me, an overwhelming sense of anxiety, or question everything that you've done and if you've made the right choices, what have you. That's what I really struggled with during my taper. But one of the benefits to tapering is I did a lot of reflecting, but it also gave way to a lot more time to plan for the race. And this is a great opportunity or time to do this if you procrastinate like me. I really utilize this time to plan my race logistics. So if you have a crew, figuring out what you might need of them at specific aid stations. I wrote a whole crew manual as to like what I need, what goes in the bag, what goes in the vest, when I anticipate kind of coming in to different aid stations, and really just like evaluating my personal needs for this effort. I prepped all of my drop bags. I put all of my nutrition into little baggies. I started to pack. I think I started packing a week and a half before the race. So that way, kind of come race week, I could just kind of relax and just focus on getting to the Airbnb and just chill, which was really nice. So I definitely recommend taking that time to figure out the logistics, but try not to let it stress you out. Try to look at it objectively. There are a lot of things when it comes to a 100-mile race. You are asking a lot of your crew. And I highly recommend, if it's your first 100-mile race, get a good crew, reliable crew, and let them know that this is a huge responsibility and undertaking, and make them feel appreciated. So what I did was I actually made little crew bags. I got my crew the John G button up. It's like a techie button up, and it was really nice and fun because on day 2 of my race, everybody knew who my crew was because they had the same, we were all matching. And it was so neat and awesome. So get them like a nice bag, get them some goodies, whether it's a nice pair of socks or like a nice hat, stickers, whatever, but make them feel really appreciated. I highly recommend doing this because they're gonna really help you when you need them the most. They're gonna be staying up all night with you. Crewing is very difficult. Like once you get into the race, running that's easy. You just gotta keep moving. The crew's gotta be like mentally, cognitively in it the whole time you are out there. So make sure you show them appreciation. But there's a lot that goes into kind of thinking about your drop bag, looking at your course and each aid station. And is it a minimal aid station or a full aid station? Is there just water? Is it just a checkpoint? When you're going to see your crew, considering all of that and planning for that, it takes time, it takes preparation, and it is not to be overlooked. And it can be a little stressful if you let it be stressful, but there is a lot to think about. And I would say don't wait. Definitely start thinking about it within 3 to 4 weeks of the race. Don't wait until the last minute, because if you do need to order more nutrition, you want to give yourself enough time to do so. Or if you need to order more socks, or even just looking at the essential or required gear for your race, you need to make sure you have all of that. So for example, I needed to order a raincoat. I needed to order rain pants that I knew would actually like be efficient and be exactly what I needed. Making sure you have the required gear so when you show up on race day, you're not like, oh crap, I don't have a bivy. What am I going to do? You want to be as prepared as possible and make it as less stressful make it as least stressful as possible for yourself. Really being mindful of all the things you need. And with that, you will, I do think, there is an element of kind of guessing and thinking about like what sort of time frame you plan to finish within, just to kind of give your crew an idea of when you think you might finish. So, just trying to start preparing as soon as possible, not too far out, but far enough out where you have time. If you need to order more things for race day, or if something happens, you have time to kind of fix it, if you will. As far as the tapering goes, it's a tough time. You'll probably question whether or not you've done enough. And it's also kind of weird backing off on all the mileage that you had been doing, but you just have to trust your training. You've done the work, you've put in the time, you've had those big days, you've had hard moments up to this point, I can only assume, in your own training. So trust that. Trust yourself, trust your abilities. You know that you can do it. So now it's just sit back and just wait for that gun to go off, and you'll be able to go and get the effort done. So allow yourself to feel those emotions of excitement, fear, anxiousness, joy, pride, being just completely uncertain of what your race experience will be like. And just know that no matter what you run into, you're probably going to run into a bit of discomfort. You're probably going to run into some sort of adversity, but that's what's going to make your 100-mile experience uniquely yours. And that's what's going to cultivate and really give you that story of your 100-mile race and your 100-mile effort. And I think that's just really cool and something to just enjoy and trust yourself, enjoy the process. So now we're at race day, huh? We've made it. You're getting ready. You're putting you've got your drop bags all put together. We're getting ready to start. Now, I know I mentioned it kind of in the taper section, but we're going to talk about just money again. So I didn't even talk about this at the start of the video, but 100 milers, they're expensive. I would say these big ultra efforts, they're expensive. The entry fee alone, I know for myself, just being completely honest and transparent. So I think it was close to $500. I opted out of doing trail work, and I pretty much just did a donation, which was an additional $150. So for the race entry itself, we're looking at $650. Now, like I said, you might have to buy more nutrition or more gear, whether or not you needed like new shoes, new socks, rain gear, bottles, what have you. The gear for your race could add up. Thankfully, a lot of times with gear other than shoes, if you invest in a good high quality raincoat or a insulated jacket or rain pants, those things are going to last you for years. It's kind of one of those buy once, cry once situations where it's like, just spend the extra money. It is a privilege to partake in these efforts because not everybody has the finances to support being able to run these big efforts, because it does add up. And then the next thing is for race day. For myself, we stayed in an Airbnb for 3 nights or 4 nights. And I mean, even just the stay, I wanted everybody in my crew to have somewhere to stay. And thankfully we did. We had somewhere for the dog to stay, which was really nice, but that adds up. And then, meals around the race add up as well. So it does get expensive quick, especially as you get closer to race day, because it's kind of, I feel like you get to this point where you're just like, well, I need it, swipe. And I mean, again, that's a privilege. We could have camped at the start finish. I just fear getting in and out of my rooftop tent after a 100-mile race would just be a whole thing. It does end up costing a good bit. So realistically, I would say expect to spend from sign up to the completion of the race $2,000 easily on your race. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's more frugal ways to go about it, but I would say $2,000. That's like the not so glamorous side of this whole thing. But I do think it's really important to know that, because if you want to get into a 100-mile race, I feel like nobody really talks about that. And I feel like I don't know. For me, I'd want to know that. I think it's really important to just be a little bit more transparent and honest about these things, because it's kind of shocking like how expensive some of these things are now, especially with the race entry. I am not like dogging on that in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, there's requirements for permits for these events to be held, and just like all the things that go into these races, like communications and logistics. So obviously it's going to cost a bit of money, and it's absolutely worth it. I would not change my experience for the world, but there are ways to make other components or aspects of a 100-mile race a little bit cheaper, but it is kind of, no matter what way you cut it, it's expensive. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Now, as far as the race itself, although I did recommend, kind of planning on an estimate of what time frame you plan to finish your race in, I think it's important to perhaps set 3 goals. So you have your A goal, which is like everything is perfect, everything goes exactly according to plan. What's your A goal? And then B goal is a bit more realistic. You run into some hiccups, you run into some issues, you're doing your problem solving, but you're still maintaining and getting through. The most realistic goal is probably your B goal. What do you expect that to be? And then C goal, this is totally subjective to everybody, but mine is usually like just to finish. So I think it's important to have a plan, but you just have to be flexible and adaptable in these races. You're inevitably going to find discomfort and pain, and especially if it's your first race, you're probably going to run into a good bit of adversity, whether it's weather, whether your shoes hurt, whether you run into GI issues. You're going to run into something. I hate to say it, and maybe you don't, but I'd rather just set the tone of like, you'll run into something and then you just have like the most perfect race ever. But expect something to happen and just be adaptable, be flexible, and do the best you can to just stick with what are your goals. I know I have to get my nutrition down, and I know I have to keep moving, and I just want to try to stay in a positive mindset. Whatever the case is, try to reel yourself into the present moment. Try to stay present. The more present you are, the more mental resources and capacity you will find to problem solve for that particular issue. So I just recommend just trying to be as flexible and open-minded as possible. And ultimately, just enjoy the race. I had so much fun talking with volunteers and fellow racers and runners. It was just really fun, and cheering people on and just really taking in the event for everything it is. I mean, when else are you spend hours on your feet in the mountains or trying to achieve this goal with the support of people that are there with the sole purpose of supporting you in this effort, and everybody wants to see you succeed and is rooting you on and there to help you do so? How cool is that? So be nice, enjoy as much of it as you can, even in those moments of discomfort. It'll pass. You're gonna be really uncomfortable, and then you're gonna come out of it. That's a part of a 100-miler, is you have those highs, but you're also gonna have the lows, and that's the experience. I think one really important thing to remember, if you for any reason feel like dropping or DNFing, I think there's obviously some factors that can't be controlled, like injury or illness or weather, that would dictate, you don't have a choice. But if it's just, I'm really uncomfortable, I'm really tired, I feel like I can't go on, you just have to remember that feeling is temporary, and how much longer the feeling of disappointment will haunt you. Like I said, the highs will come, but so will the lows, and everything, it's just a wave. You're going up and down and up and down. And I think also just keeping in mind all the training you've done and hard work you've done to get to that point. You don't want to let that person down, all the time that you've put in. So bearing in mind that those lows will pass, have a caffeinated gel and just keep it moving. If you think you're just going to show up and everything's going to be hunky-dory and perfect and amazing, I know for me, I ran into some really bad weather. I had some really bad gas from the altitude. I ran into some really bad nausea, and just being in the high altitude for so long, I ran into a lot of issues. And I think just being in the grit, in the darkness, in the pain, I don't think I really had any moments of just being upset or pissed or anything. It was just, it is what it is. You just got to keep going. And I never once was like, how am I going to finish? I don't think I ever had that cross my mind, just because I was so this is my experience. This is the card I was dealt, and we're just going to keep pushing. Those unique things are, like I said, it's what's going to formulate and create your unique 100-mile experience. So try to enjoy it, try to laugh at it, try to have fun as much as you possibly can. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to learn from everything. But ultimately, if you can just keep moving, you're going to get to that finish line. And so if you didn't quit, you've made it to the finish line. So after your race, like what happens after your race? So some expectations. So as far as recovery time goes, for me personally, I just said I am not going to run for like at least 10 days, and I didn't. The first time I ran, I felt like a baby deer trying to stand for the first time. My legs felt so weird. It felt like they didn't even belong to me, like jello. I don't know. I felt so weird. And then after that, things felt pretty good. I came back physically pretty quick, but my energy levels took a very long time to come back. Everybody, I think this is probably one of the most important things after your race is everybody's recovery is going to look different. Like mentally, somebody might come back really quick, but physically they might not, or vice versa. And you just got to do what's best for you. And if that means not going on Strava, not watching running content, not looking at races going on, that's okay. Like do what is best for you in your recovery, because it's just going to take time. Especially your first 100-mile race, it's going to take time. And I recently saw a comment on one of my videos, and it really resonated with me that I think in recent years, the 100-mile distance has been diluted or whittled down to almost the same as what a marathon is. And it is not. It is 100 miles. It's 100 miles. Like you are not going to just immediately recover from a 100-mile race. 2 weeks, probably not. It's probably going to take like a month to upwards of 3 months. And that is okay. And you have nothing to feel bad about for that. And like I said, if mentally you just can't look at those things, like other people's running, pro athletes, whatever, because it can just feel like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not up to what these other people are doing? And that's okay. It's your first 100. I've had to tell myself that you just got to do what's best for you, but give yourself a lot of time. And the tough thing is, for me personally, I experienced a lot of burnout because I feel I just dedicated so much to my training that after my race, I had no desire to wake up and travel anymore because I had done so much traveling before the race. And I didn't feel like waking up super early to get out and get to the mountains. It just didn't sound appealing. So I also just didn't feel like running. I didn't feel like pushing myself on a run. I didn't feel like doing long runs. And I honestly still don't really feel like doing a lot of long runs. I feel more motivated when I do them with other people. But at this point in time, I'm just like 20 miles. And I think it's all just really subjective. The other thing too is I feel after my first 100K, I experienced a lot of post-ultra depression, post-race blues. And I think for me originally, a lot of that was due to the fact that I just kind of felt like I had spent so much time with this purpose in my life, this one motivating factor that provided me, like I said, purpose, and it's gone. It's over, it's done. What do I do now? And it took me a few months to really pick myself up last year and kind of get myself together and figure out some direction and what the meaning of running was in my life. I would say this year I haven't really struggled with that quite as much, just more so burnout and not wanting to do super early alpine starts this year after my race. And it can be tough because, if your recovery does take a long time, you want to be going, but your body's not quite ready to do these adventures. And it can be a little bit tough to navigate, but like I said, you got to do what's best for you and don't question what your body's telling you. Listen to it. It's smart, be intuitive, and do what you need to do. There's also this element with burnout where it's like, you do this event, you do this distance, and maybe you find this incredible passion for the 100-mile distance, or you're like, I want to do a 200 or go even further. But what if you do a 100-mile race and you're like, never again? It's a very real possibility. And I think that's something to consider, that, you might run into that where it's like, I did it. I'm good. We're closing that chapter and I want to go back and focus on 50Ks or 50 milers. And that's okay. I just don't think, I think it's interesting, you push these boundaries and then you walk away from it and you're like, I don't need to push that boundary again. So I think that's just something important to note, that you might walk away from it with a totally different perspective on running or racing and what these things mean to you. And that's okay. Like I said, you got to do what's best for you. So just know that might be something you run into, or you might feel like you are ready to go and that was the most inspiring thing and you feel like there's so much more potential for you to conquer longer distances or push yourself in another 100-mile race and you're ready to do it. And I think that's really cool. So you just never really know. I mean, you could walk away from your 100-mile race feeling just so good. Your recovery goes really good and you're ready to rock and roll and look at the next race. And honestly, initially that's how I felt after High Lonesome. And I had a really good recovery with my body, but my energy levels just didn't come back. And I had a lot of burnout and just some extraneous factors in my personal life, work life, that sort of thing that I just didn't really expect to have happen. That kind of, I don't know, played a part in running and what it meant to me after what my first big 100-mile race. But you know, I do think it's just really beautiful to, like I said, start from training. You have this little idea of, I think I want to run a 100-mile race, and then you do this research and it seems like this big, impossible, scary dream, and then you do the work, you show up, you take all these little steps and everything falls in line, and then you complete this goal and effort that you set out to, that's taken months if not years to complete, and you do that, and it's just, how cool. It really is just one of the most awesome feelings in the whole world. It might take time to process. Like, I really do think the other thing is you kind of ride this wave after your race of like, you might not be happy with the outcome, but then down the road you're like, no, I did that. And you then start to take pride in it. Or it's just a whole journey. And I just really want to encourage you, if you do decide to do a 100-mile race, take pride in all of it. Like, be proud of yourself. It's not something everybody chooses to do or can even do. And for that, you should be just really stoked and really proud of yourself. The only final thing I want to mention in regards to recovering from your race is, we're done, is the fact that now you have time to spend with your family and friends, and you can, you know, go explore other hobbies. You can finally take time to work on puzzles or learn how to play the guitar or get back into rock climbing or focus on different activities. Like I said, different hobbies. It's a great time to do that. And for me personally, like, I had to walk away and just really like redefine what running looked like in my life for the next few months after the race to fit kind of what I was dealing with, like I said, in my personal life, my work life, etc. Take the time, like, give yourself time. If your body is telling you, hey, I'm not ready to bounce right back into a training plan or run yet, then don't. I don't recommend signing up for any races within a month of your first 100-mile race. Like, give yourself some time, take it easy, chill, and do what's best for you. If you feel ready, do it. But if not, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel burnt out. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to not feel super stoked on the performance you had at your race. It's okay to feel a lot of pride in your race. It's okay to feel really good after your race. And every single recovery and race is going to be different. And whatever you dealt with during your race is going to be different than somebody else. No matter what, you did it. And if you decide to pursue a 100-mile race, I wish you the absolute best of luck. I hope you have the best time from the time you sign up to the time you cross that finish line. It's such an amazing experience and something I can only hope that everybody has the opportunity to experience at some point in their life. It truly just is spectacular to see what you are capable of with that level of dedication, hit new highs, complete new goals, and see that, wow, anything is possible with consistency, dedication, and passion. So if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, or if any of this resonated with you, let me know. If you have any questions about my experience specifically, you can also leave those in the comments down below. I do have to give a shout out to John G. Today I'm wearing their, I actually don't know the name of the hoodie, I'll put it on the screen, but I love this hoodie so much. It's just one of my favorite things to wear. I actually just ordered another one because they're so comfortable, and they have a nice hood that goes over the top, and it's just like a nice big hood that I love so much. So shout out to John G. You can use my code Mountain High Life for 10% off your order. Thanks to John G for partnering with me. If you're into trail running or ultramarathon training, consider subscribing. That's what I post here on my channel. Again, if you made it to this point in the video, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for watching. I believe in you. I believe in your capability. I trust your ability to complete a 100-mile race if that's something you want to do. So that to be said, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you get out on some trail today, and I will see you in my next adventure. Bye.